friends. Welcome to Lydiah Young's Grad Defense. Lydia will be our last presenter for today. So we're quickly going to run down, have the panel introduce themselves so you know who you're talking to. Then off you go, and we'll turn it over to the panel at the end for questions. All set?
Perfect.
Hi Lydia, I'm Kelly Nichols. I work in the Cheney School District. I'm in our teaching and learning department.
Hi Lydia, my name is Ann Harper. I'm from the community and my background is in preschool teaching little kids.
Cool.
I'm Lori Johnson and I work at Riverth University helping prepare teachers and principals.
I'm Chandy Wood. I'm the associate principal at Spokane International Academy, grade 6 through 12th grade.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, and it's nice meeting you. I'm Lydia. I'm a 401 here at TCS, and I have been doing full-time Running Start this past year, so haven't been around the school a lot, but I am one of the OGs. So I've been here, an official student, since day one of freshman year, which is just crazy because there's been a lot of growth, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of curveballs, but there's been a lot of things that I've grown into that I really wouldn't have expected of myself, and one of those is an effective advocate. And again, not something that I really would have expected of myself. Starting freshman year, or even kind of before then, I was a very rigid perfectionist, very success-driven, had huge goals for myself, kind of wanted to do everything. And that kind of showed in projects. I was very controlling in groups, and when it came to advisory and a lot of the career exploration that we did, if you'd asked me, oh, hey Lydia, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would have said, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to go into business, or one time I said, I want to be a public relations specialist, so something in the corporate world. And really that was kind of just wanting to have a career that people would have praised me for, and something that was just big and important. But as the 4 years have kind of gone by at TCS, I've really realized that that's not what I want to do. I want to do something that's more people-oriented, something that actually makes a lasting impact. You know that one line from Zootopia where it's like, I want to make the world a better place, and it's a little cheesy, but that's really become my motto. And it's kind of helped lead me toward becoming a better advocate and eventually deciding to do clinical social work as the career that I'm working towards right now. So a hard job, but it's professional and client-based, so kind of that nice mix. But it hasn't been point A to point B, so I'm going to lead you through a whole bunch of experiences that I've gone through and how I've kind of gotten to that point. So one of the first, I think, memories in my mind of really when I started to feel this tug toward doing something that was more people-based was in 6th grade, and my family became foster care parents at that point. And I wish I could have said like I was excited for it, but I really wasn't. I was actually pretty frustrated about it. It's like, why would I want to have these random kids come into our home? And I was pretty selfish and bitter. But as these kids would come into our home, and we did like 0 to 2, so still really young, I started to really feel for them. I remember the first kid that we had, she was this little chubby 6-month-old baby, and I remember walking into the house and going into my parents' room, and she was just sitting there, and she was the sweetest thing ever, and my heart just melted, and I was like, wow, like this is so cool. And each of the kids that we've had, we fostered 7 kids over the couple years, and with each kid, each of them was different, and some were a lot harder than others, but it was really challenging for me to grow in compassion for these kids. And it also like opened my eyes to the different challenges and injustices that are out there and things that I didn't even realize about, especially how broken the foster care system is, and just like the physical and the emotional abuse that they were experiencing and the poverty, just the struggles that they really had no control over, but they were just in this situation. So that really kind of just opened my eyes to it. And at that point, like I really hadn't thought about social work. It wasn't even in my mind as something that I wanted to do. I mean, I'm in 6th grade, so I hadn't even asked the question what I wanted to do. But I remember telling people, oh, I think I might want to foster at some point. So even then, I was admitting to myself, like I kind of want to do something that will help people in this way. But it wasn't really until 2 years later that I kind of put my actions where my words were. And this had nothing to do with foster care. It was actually a writing contest that I participated in, where I got to send out kind of a call to the community in an advocacy role for the first time. So this was in 8th grade, and my English class had the opportunity to submit entries to the Spokane Community Observance of the Holocaust, the annual writing contest they do each year. And it's kind of published in the Spokesman Review, and you win. And the year before, in 7th grade, I submitted an entry, but I hadn't won, and so that was a big disappointment because I put really my heart and soul into that piece. But this 8th grade year, second round, I was like, well, I'll just put more effort into the message. I'll hold it with an open hand. If I win, great. If not, that's okay. A couple weeks later, I received the call like, hey, you won. And I remember the conversation was kind of awkward because I just couldn't form like full sentences. I was so excited and I couldn't even believe it. But it was really cool to see like, wow, you know, at that point I knew that I was good at writing. I enjoyed it. But it was the first time that it actually been sent out to the community. Like, this is something that I can do, and not just writing for myself in a grade, but writing to the community. And so I'm going to read you a little excerpt from that essay, and it is in front of you. It's the purple highlighted one, and this is from it. I will always remember the righteous among the nations and do my best to walk in their footsteps in all areas of my life. In my own home, I can care for foster children with compassion, recognizing their lives know injustice. Using my writing, I can write about the injustices done to children, women, families, and communities all around the world. In the foster care system, concentration camps, jobs, homes, rough neighborhoods, refugee camps. The world is full of injustice, unfairness, and inequality. Nonetheless, standing by will do nothing for those who severely need help. The righteous among the nations set the example. They are our heroes. Now in our day and age, let us follow, shining light in the dark, bringing hope to the hopeless. So a little rough, you know, it was 8th grade, it was an essay, it wasn't my best writing, I would say, but it was a nice transition into freshman year, actually, at TCS, where I had the opportunity to kind of even do more advocacy work. So this was a nice bridge. And right off the bat, freshman year, there was just a whole bunch of projects that actually provided a lot of opportunities for advocacy work. And one of the first ones, it really had nothing to do with injustice. It was more just learning about stories. And it was a project called I Will Survive. And I Will Survive, it was focused on helping, it was, you know, the 9th graders and the 10th graders, and we had just kind of come out of COVID. So this really big event in our lives and kind of threw our whole middle school, you know, experience into the fire. And so this project kind of helped us reflect on what are the challenges that we faced during that time, how did we get through it. And then one of the assignments was to interview someone about what a challenge they faced in their life. And I decided, well, you know, I'm going to interview my neighbor, Mr. Lowell, and he lived across the street. And we lived across from him for a long time, but I didn't really know much about him. And so sitting down like in his living room in his old rocking chair and just talking to him was really special. And hearing like about his story. I didn't even know he was a Korean War veteran. I didn't know that he'd actually left like his small town when he was in 9th grade and going to Spokane to do high school. And so he was away from his family actually for high school, which like I didn't know about. And so it was really special to talk to him and hear his story. So I'm gonna play you this short clip, and it's quiet. So I hope that it. Oh wait, Nate, do you? The mouse. Sorry. It's kind of quiet, but this is a short clip from the interview. And it just as kind of background, we were talking about his high school experience, how he'd come from his small town to Spokane.
So how did you navigate that move, that change from, you know, where you used to live to here?
Well, my brother helped me an awful lot, because he introduced me to the city life, I guess you'd call it, but it was, then I had, well, we lived down on 16th and Pacific, and but we didn't have all the freeways, but the highways, that was kind of scary for me at that time. But, you know, I didn't have a car or anything, but it was adjustment. You know.
Yeah.
Just to start high school too, and come from a small town, it was kind of hard, you know, in a way, but I adjusted to it, I guess.
So that interview was done in 2021, and now looking back, he actually passed away in December of 2024. So that kind of like listening to the interview again, like it really just even made me realize to a further extent, like it's super important to capture people's stories and hear them and be able to connect with them, because you don't really know how much longer people have, or you don't know what's going to happen. And it really like introduced this like this spark, like wow, like I really enjoy hearing people's stories. I enjoy sitting down with them and learning more about them. So that kind of led me into advisory and the independent projects that we did. So in advisory, it was about the same time. We were starting to jump in independent projects, which are kind of just allowing you to get a feel for what are some of the things that you enjoy and helping lead toward later career exploration in junior and senior year. And so I didn't really want to do 4 separate independent projects. I wanted to do like 4 connected ones. So I decided to do a journalistic style article on our high school counselor, Ashley King, just learning more about her. And then the end goal was to make it look like an actual article, as if it was published in a newspaper. And so I started this process, I wrote the interview questions, sat down with her, recorded it, went back, wrote the article up. And it took a lot of research and sounding board off of Nate because I didn't really know the rules, because there's very specific rules you have to do when you're writing a journalistic style piece. And then finally, after I kind of wrote the article, edited it, went into our computer room and just sat down for days and days and started editing it and making it look kind of like this. And so I used Adobe InDesign, and Adobe is this really cool software that the district pays for to be able to use, like whether it's audio or Photoshop or video editing. And so I used Adobe InDesign, which was more kind of like graphic design feel. And it was a cool learning experience for me to learn, okay, well, how do I make the words kind of work around this picture of her, and how do I layer this over this, and how do I make this transparent? And it was a good skill to learn, because even though graphic design is not something that I want to go into, it's, I think, a good skill to have, especially in the workplace. So that was really cool to be able to work with her and do this new project. So one of the last projects I remember freshman year that stood out in my mind as kind of a culmination of the different things I'd done freshman year was Yearning for Home. And Yearning for Home was like a refugee-centered project. It was we brought in a lot of refugees and guest speakers, and hearing their stories, what their families went through, what they went through. And I remember it was kind of interesting. I enjoy listening to the stories, but at the end of the project, we had to you got to decide how you wanted to do the final product, which is kind of like the final assignment, how you wanted to go with it. And my group decided, well, let's do social media. Why don't we just raise awareness to this? Why don't we show people, hey, here are some resources that are available? And so we kind of just sat down and started creating, and you can see these are some of the posts that we made, just talking about resources, bringing awareness to it. And more than just learning about refugees and kind of this interest there, I actually stepped into a really pretty big leadership role with this project, and it was for the first time ever that I'd kind of done that. Before TCS, I was very much a follower. I didn't really like stepping into the spotlight. I just felt uncomfortable. But I remember there wasn't really a lot of leadership in the group, and we had to get the things done. So I was like, well, someone has to do it. And so I stepped in and would make the agendas for the day and the to-do lists, and kind of said, oh, hey, can you send this email? Can you do this for the day? Hey, I need you to talk to this person. Can you talk to this person? And I loved it. I remember feeling so confident in it, and I mean, my siblings, joke that I'm bossy, and I don't think it was bossy. It was just genuinely trying to get something done for a product, and so. But I loved it, and it kind of helped led actually into sophomore year, where I had a whole bunch of opportunities to jump into leadership roles. Now that this interest was there, now that this, I want to say not passion, but love for leadership kind of had sparked, I really wanted to do more of it, and I wanted to get better at it. And so right off the bat, there was a cool opportunity through the TCS ambassadors. And TCS ambassadors, it's more like hands-on work, whereas ASB feels more like making decisions from kind of the sidelines. TCS ambassadors more on the front lines, talking to people and engaging with future 8th graders who are coming into the school, and parents and teachers, and going to different middle schools and doing presentations. And I just love that. I thought it'd be great. So I applied, got accepted, and for the next year and a half, spent time going into the middle schools and giving presentations and answering questions and giving tours around the school during our info nights. And it was really cool to be there and to talk to these people. And then the second opportunity that I had to do leadership in sophomore year was Leadership Council. And this was actually away from TCS. It was at my church, actually. And my youth pastor had said, hey, this is an opportunity if you want to make a difference in our youth group, if you want to help set the tone for the way that we're, what we're doing on Wednesday nights and on Sundays, here is a way that you can do that. And so I was like, well, sure, why not? And I applied, and it was a pretty rigorous interview process, and only 6 people got selected, and I got selected for that. And over the next couple months, I worked with the 5 other people and my youth pastor, and we actually preached in front of the youth group, and we did a lot of announcements and event planning and behind-the-scenes work. And it was cool to kind of learn this multifaceted role, and then also learning kind of behind-the-scenes work. The advocacy and leadership, it's not just being in front of people and on the stage, it's a lot of behind-the-scenes support, which leads me into another way that I worked on behind-the-scenes work through Bite to Go. So Bite to Go is this program that allows students who need a little extra food or support over the weekend or over a holiday to get that food to bring home. And I was like, well, I joined one of our wellnesses, which is kind of our electives, and the it was called TCS Inc., which kind of was multiple areas. It was whether it was event planning for some of our like prom or dances, and then Bite to Go was also involved in that. And no one was really stepping up for Bite to Go, so I was like, well, why not? And so I jumped in and was one of the main point person for Bite to Go for about that whole year. And it took a lot of communication, to communicate with the people who brought the food in, and to communicate with my facilitator, Tammy, and to also like pack. I did a lot of planning and prepping and organizing and taking inventory, and I loved it. I loved being in this role and being able to make my own schedule and being independent. It took a lot of self-motivation, like, oh, I need to get this done today, and learning to be okay with kind of this unseen role of advocacy where I'm supporting the students that need this, but it's not pointed to me. It's okay that I'm not getting credit for it. And then one of the last projects of sophomore year that I remember was kind of like a culmination, again, of all the things in sophomore year, was anti-racist youth. And whereas a lot of the things that I've been doing before this was more focused on other people and doing things for other people, this project felt more of a reflection of where I've been and what I need to work on. So it kind of helped me kind of slow down for a second and look at the biases that I had and the preferences and the leanings and things that I'd been taught or learned just from looking and observation. And it may not be right, or it may not be something that I want to do moving forward. And so at the end of the project, I wrote a poem for my final product, and this was the first time that I'd written a poem, so it was rough, but it just allowed me to kind of pour my heart onto the paper and kind of write of where have I been, what do I want to do moving forward. And so I'm going to read you a little clip of that poem, and it is in front of you with the blue highlighted section. I've always walked on a wire, forced by the world to choose a side, black or white, wrong or right, yet I refuse to abide. We run from the uncomfortable, hide in the safety of our home, yet we leave them in the shadows, though silenced and left unknown. I am born with generations of history, ancestors far and near, who held the bull by its horns, story of strength without fear. Black or white, they firmly fought to move beyond, to rise, injustice, hate, and hardship holding fast, but their spirit breaking ties. I too have tired of this injustice, feigning deafness to their call. I yearn to step up, use this influence, pick up the hall. For too long I've laid low. Was it enough to not be racist? I see now my mistake. I cannot ignore the fight. I must face it. So I remember it was just a really special time for me to set kind of this resolve for myself of this is what I want to do moving forward. This is the promise that I want to make for myself. I want to make a lasting impact. Because many of the projects that we've done, the impact that we did, the advocacy really only was within the borders of the project. It didn't really have a lot of impact outside once the project was over. And I kind of told myself here in this poem, like, I want to make an impact that will last decades. I don't want to just end it here. And then finally in junior year, a lot of things happened in junior year. It was a pretty busy year, but I remember one project in particular felt like it meant more to me than anything else. And it was kind of a leading up of all the other things that I'd done. It was a leading up from the Holocaust essay that I did back in 8th grade. It was leading up to from the Union for Home work that we did. It was from the interviews that I did with Ashley and Mr. Wool. And it kind of started with this project called Watchdogs. And originally the project was really just about like learning the role of media and learning, okay, what does the media do? What are these hot button issues that are around, and how do they portray it? And at the end, kind of one of the big thing from the whole project is you have to write an article about this hot button issue. You have to talk about it. You have to do interviews and then write it. And I like kind of from the bat, people were doing different topics, and some of them were more important than others. And I was like, well, I kind of want to do mine on undocumented immigrants. And that was something that was like totally new for me. I knew really nothing about it. I mean, I'd been told things, but I kind of took this as a challenge for myself. Like, I want to educate myself in the proper way, and then I want to go out and be able to educate other people. This is what I've learned here, take it from me, sort of thing. And so started out, and I did a whole bunch of really in-depth research for a couple weeks, and then went out and scheduled interviews with multiple nonprofit planners and organizers, and including Latinos in Spokane and Harris in Action, and just sat down with them and asked them, hey, what are your experiences? What have you seen? What are the people that you work with, what have they gone through? And learning from them. And then I went back and wrote this article and got feedback from some people from Range Media, and then finally got it published in Range Media. And that was really, really cool to see it come together. And it was just a really sweet time for me, again, like kind of seen from the Holocaust essay that I've done, like I can have my voice sent out in the community and I can make it a lasting impact. And so I'm going to read you a quick excerpt from this article, and it is a clip from like an interview that I did with a lady from New Harrison Action. As a mother, Trusty had made it her job to empathize with and aid those who desire a better life and future. Originally from Puerto Rico, she moved to the continental U.S. to finish her college education in Miami, Florida. She moved to Spokane to lay down a foundation for herself and her daughter. Still, Trusty says she felt like she had lost who she was. I was assimilated, she said. I had a job working for Spokane County, I had friends, everybody was Anglo, so I really was losing my roots and my Spanish. It wasn't until Trusty saw an ad for Maya on social media that she connected with people from her community in Spokane. She started as a volunteer at Maya and slowly worked her way up to the position of communications director. Now she spends her days supporting the Latinx survivors at Maya by helping them to obtain federally funded services. So I was just really proud of what I accomplished here in this article that kind of was the culmination of everything, and it felt like one last big thing at TCS that I was able to do before I kind of started Running Start in the fall. Which leads me to this past year. I've really kind of been on my own for this past year. It's been kind of lonely and isolating at times, but I've enjoyed really the peace of being on my own and making my own schedule. So I've been Running Start is probably the biggest thing this last year. And I had started out junior year doing a couple classes just to kind of test the waters. And this is one of the things that actually I had never expected myself to do. If you'd asked me freshman year, hey, do you think you'd want to do Running Start? I would have said definite no, I don't want to do that. And that was my answer to any question ever. But I loved it when I took I took sociology and psychology junior year just to try it out, and I loved it. I loved the professors, I loved the topics, and in fact, it sparked a little bit more of an interest for clinical social work, just because I found it fascinating, like the way that our mind works, the way that society works, and then that kind of led into full-time this last year. So I've been taking just a lot of normal, like prerequisite classes with English, science, math, stuff like that. But I've loved it. I've loved being able to learn how to advocate for myself with professors, because you're expected to do the work and do it well, and there's a lot less hand-holding than there is in high school. And, you know, figuring out, okay, how do I get this work done on time, and kind of letting go of my perfectionistic tendencies, like it's okay if I get a B on this exam, like it's not that big of a deal, and really liking it there. And then I've also been doing a lot of volunteering at my church in different aspects. Just learning, okay, how can I serve people in different aspects, whether that's, you know, the special needs kids in the kids ministry, or greeting newcomers and helping them get connected. So learning just how to reach people in different scenarios. And then finally, one of the biggest things this year has been sports. I have been doing cross country and track and field at Shadle Park High School since freshman year, and I love it. It's awesome. It's been a cool way to get faster and keep healthy and active and just connect with even more people. So in cross country in the fall, I got the position of team captain at the end of the year. They always award like the team captaincy award at the end. But that whole year I'd been kind of leading up toward it. I was getting, you wouldn't think that organizing high school girls would be that much of a difficulty, but it really was, because people would forget, oh, we're meeting today, or hey, the bus leaves at 3:30 today, or planning team spirit activities. But I kind of took on that role and organized everyone, made sure everyone was on the same page, and finally got the team captain award. And these are my coaches on the screen. And I'm really going to miss them, but it's been a good year. So moving forward, some of my plans going forward is I am committed to WSU, and I'm super, super excited for that. But that is not my immediate plan, actually. This fall, I'm going to be living in the Dominican Republic with a program called Engage My Life, and it's a program I got involved with through my church, and it allows high school students who just graduated to choose a location in the world. There's a whole bunch, and you have to apply, of course, but going and living with missionaries there, and working in their ministry, getting involved with the people and the culture and the work there. And then, of course, you're required to take online classes at a college or university of your choice while there, too. So I'll be there for 3 months, from September 8th to December 8th, actually, exactly, and working with them and taking online classes with SFCC to finish up my A, because I am halfway with the Running Start credits that I've been doing this year. And then coming home, of course, transferring to WSU to get my bachelor's in social sciences. And then after that, there's a lot of things, but of course, being a clinical social worker, you have to have a master's in social work. So EWU is the only university in the area that has a master's social work program, so applying there, doing that, going through my licensed hours and getting licensure and doing the standardized exam that you're required to take. Becoming a clinical social worker, that's the goal. But then some other goals that I have for myself, just little ones, is I really want to run a marathon. I know that's like silly, but that's one of my goals. And then also, I really want to become part of the Spokane Swifts, just because I thought that'd be fun. I know a couple ladies that run there, and they've invited me to join them a couple times. And then also just continuing volunteering with my church and being involved in nonprofit work. We've done a couple projects with the Lands Council actually, and every time we work with them, I really like it. I like their Spokane projects and planting trees in different areas throughout the region. So I really want to get involved in that. But overall, those are all just goals. Those are just plans. They could change. Life isn't point A to point B, but whatever's coming, I'm ready for it. Thank you.
Let's open it up for questions and comments from the panel.
Wow. You are quite accomplished already, so I would just encourage you to keep writing. I mean, you have a natural gift, so however that works into your life, that would be wonderful. One of the things that I heard you say is just your consistency in wanting to know more about people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's just walking beside them daily or actually engaging in projects with them. When you go to the Dominican Republic here in the summer, it's a beautiful thing to see a young person like yourself kind of work through the tendency to maybe not engage people in people as much, but then to dedicate time and energy and effort with the purpose that you feel like you have in this world. So thank you for sharing, and I applaud everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing your journey. I would say that I have two pieces of feedback. I appreciated you talking about point A to point B is not linear, and I think that demonstrates your flexibility, which is a great strength to have. And then what I heard from you is that you have the heart of a servant leader. You're somebody that's reflective, you're analytical, you seek to learn. And at first I had written down, oh, Lydia's open to learning. That's different. You actually seek things out. You shared an example of, I signed up to do this because I didn't know anything about it, right? So that's you seeking to learn. And lastly, I would say that you make a difference as an advocate. So that first slide that you had as an advocate, I see the evidence all along that you are doing that and being a voice for others. So I would recommend you continue to see that point A to point B in case something changes after your undergrad going into grad school, and then keeping those strengths as you go, remembering them.
Thank you.
Yeah, my first reaction too is wow. You have a lot going for you moving forward. I have one question, and I'm curious. I don't think that you mentioned this part. Is what brought you to the community school and to do the Running Start as opposed to traditional high school, even though you're running with Shale Park? How did you get to doing all three of those things?
Yeah. Well, I think 8th grade, I was just really intimidated by how big of a high school Shale Park was, and I just wanted like a more intimate setting where the teachers knew me well and I felt known and safe. You know, I just heard like a lot of things at Shadle, just safety issues and stuff. And again, like staff there are great, but like I just wanted a different experience. And so that kind of led me to that. But Running Start, I mean, I wanted to just do high school normal, like all 4 years, but by junior year, I think I was just ready for a challenge. I just wanted to challenge myself and get a feel for what would be expected of me when I finally go to university. So, and it was also just a way to get free college classes, you know, get credits out of the way. So
Yeah. That Running Start is great.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to compliment you on, I mean, you clearly realize that writing is, you're a good writer, and that is so important in so many things, whether you're being creative or you're grant writing or you're looking for, you know, all of those things. Writing is so important, and it looks like you really have a good handle on that. And I can see that in your leadership when you started out, like just wanting it your way or the highway kind of, and have to have it this way, that over time you have learned to be a leader, and as was mentioned, a servant leader, but that you've also learned to delegate. There was one portion where you said, you do this, I need you to send an email, do this. And that's a skill too, to not, I think a lot of people who want to lead feel like they need to do everything themselves if they want it done right.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to delegate is a really good skill to have, and then to, you know, check back in with those people. And and clearly you're, you know, following up and getting things done, and I feel like you are success driven, but you have learned to get those things done with kindness and with care for other people, and I think to run a marathon is a great goal to have.
Yeah.
And I think you're on a great path, and congratulations on your graduation, and I think you obviously have a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you.
And go Cougs.
Yes.
Yeah, Lydia, I appreciate the opportunity to learn about your journey thus far. I think you were made for these times, right? Like there's no better time, no more necessary time in the world than to be an advocate. And so I'm just excited for what you will contribute and how you'll serve. I think it's really exciting for you to go to a different country, really learn and expand. You know, it's a big, bad, beautiful world out there, and so I hope that's the beginning of multiple places for you to be. You know, the clinical work is so necessary right now, and so I'm just very happy that that's, I hope you stick to that. I mean, who knows, you know, the world will conspire how it does, and you will, you know your calling, but if that's something that does come to be, like how so important and necessary that work is, and so very excited that that's where you're headed at this time. And I think, again, the writing and the ability to listen to people's stories, respect their stories, and share their stories is pivotal. And so looking forward to how you will be able to advocate and change through the quality of your writing and the ability for you to really listen and honor the stories of others.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Questions, comments from the audience? Lydia, I have so much I want to say to you. We met 4 years ago. I remember, probably not our first conversation, but the first conversation I remember is we were at Camp Reed at the beginning of the year, kind of like our kickoff thing. And you came up and talked to Cindy and I, who were standing over by the lunches. And man, we had like a 20-second conversation where you made fun of me 3 times. And it was so charming and so lovely. And then you went off to your next thing, and Cindy looked at me like, that one we need to pay attention to. I think about the presentation you just showed, and like I'm looking at common themes. I can think of so many other things you've done that you actually didn't even put in here. And what I'm struck by, I think what surprised me early on is we would throw resources your way. Hey, I need help with this thing, can you jump in on it? And then you would be so good at it, and then decide, yeah, this isn't really for me. We pulled you for like a lot of video work, and you were great, and you were wonderful on camera, and you had like all this interest and spark, and then you got to the end of it and decided, nah, this isn't really what I want to do. Or the Ashley graphic design, you have actually put that in there, is here's this major project you took on, you did wonderful, and you got to the end, you're like, not really graphic design. And it took me a while to realize what was happening here, which was that you are the one who's finding, like using the word path is not really the right phrase for you, because you're not following any sort of path, you're following your compass, and you're figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. And after 4 years, when you came and told me, actually, yeah, I got into WSU, I got in everywhere. I'm gonna go do this other thing in the Dominican Republic. I was like, of course. That sounds really, really right. And it's so exciting that you're going to do this thing, and you're holding what comes next kind of loosely. You think it might be WSU, you think it might be Masters in Social Work, but the truth is you're not walking a path that's been prescribed for you. You are finding your way, which is such a different thing and such a rare thing. You said you're so suited for these times, and I think not only do we need advocates, we need people who can adapt to the world in front of them. So we are so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Panel, you've been so giving of your time. Thank you so much for being here. We have an unrealistic amount of Girl Scout cookies over there. We encourage you to take as many boxes as you would like as a thank you gift. And also, the students have packed up some commemorative TCS mugs, which are full of goodies and important things. So please take them and display them proudly. Thanks again.
Wonderful.
Thank you.